welcome back to Under Baobab Skies. Tonight, we delve into the story of those who lived and labored along one of Africa's most powerful waterways, the Congo River. The Congo, with its endless curves, roaring rapids, and hidden depths, has always been more than just a river. It is a lifeline, a spirit, a vast mirror where the heavens bend down to touch the earth. For centuries, it fed villagers, carried trade, and whispered stories through the reeds. But life along this river has never been simple. It demanded courage. It demanded patience. And for those who cast their nets into its waters, the fishermen of the Congo, it demanded their very strength. Day after day, as the evening air softens and the stars begin to appear above us, imagine yourself seated near the riverbank. The fire crackles faintly, sending sparks into the night sky. The sound of the water, steady and restless, surrounds us. Here, under the quiet guardianship of the baobab tree, we will explore the hidden struggles and triumphs of those who lived by the net and the paddle. In the heart of Africa, where the lush embrace of the jungle meets the mighty Congo River, there existed a way of life both timeless and enduring. It was a world where men and women, bound by the rhythms of the river, navigated not just its waters, but the challenges that mirrored its untamed spirit. The Congo River, a ribbon of lifeblood winding through the continent, dictated the pace of their existence. With each sunrise, the fishermen would set out into its murky depths, their dugout canoes becoming a second home as they paddled across its vast expanse. These canoes, crafted from the very essence of the forest, were more than just vessels. They were symbols of resilience, shaped by the hands of men who understood the river's moods as intimately as their own hearts. The river was their livelihood, providing sustenance and a connection to the world beyond the dense foliage. Yet it was a relationship forged in both bounty and peril. The Congo, with its unpredictable nature, demanded respect. Storms could brew on the horizon, turning the placid water into a raging torrent. The fishermen, seasoned veterans of the river's whims, would navigate these sudden shifts with a mixture of skill and intuition. Their days were marked by the play of light on the water, the changing angles of the sun casting long shadows through the trees. Time, in this watery realm, was measured not in hours, but in the rhythm of the paddles dipping into the current. The fishermen, bronzed and weathered by the elements, became one with the river. Their muscles, honed by years of labor, knew the subtle language of the water, reading its currents and swells. But their lives were not solely defined by the river's demands. In the evenings, when the sky blazed with hues of orange and purple, they returned to the shore, bringing with them the day's catch and stories of their encounters with the river. Around the crackling fire, under the watchful gaze of the baobab tree, they would share tales of the river's moods, of the fish that tugged at their nets and the storms they had weathered. Theirs was a community bound not just by blood, but by the shared respect and understanding of the river that sustained them. Each scar on their bodies and each line on their faces told a story of endurance, of battles fought and won against the forces of nature, and, as the night deepened, they would rest, lulled by the soothing rhythm of the river, their dreams as boundless and deep as the Congo's timeless flow. And so life flowed along the mighty Congo, a melody of struggle and harmony, where the fishermen, the true sons and daughters of the river, played their part in an age-old dance as eternal as the river itself. Thank you for joining us on this journey along the Congo River. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to like and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to life. And if you have a story to share or an idea for a future episode, please don't hesitate to reach out. Until next time, stay curious, stay adventurous, and remember the spirit of the Congo flows in all of us. You are now under baobab skies. and the story begins. By the end of this part, you'll understand why being a fisherman along the Congo River was as dangerous as it was necessary for survival. The Congo River is no gentle stream. It is the second largest river in the world by volume, and its moods are unpredictable. At one moment, calm waters reflect the sky like a mirror. At the next, hidden whirlpools or sudden surges turn the surface into a furious storm. For the fishermen of the Congo, this river was both a source of life and a constant threat. They rose before the dawn, paddling narrow canoes made from hollowed tree trunks, their muscles taut with both strength and fear. Each day they knew the river might not return them home. The dangers were many. Crocodiles lurked at the edges, waiting silently with eyes that gleamed above the surface. Hippopotamuses, too, guarded their territories fiercely, capable of overturning canoes in a flash. Then there were the sudden storms that gathered without warning. Dark clouds rolling in, lightning splitting the sky, and sheets of rain that turned the river into a boiling chaos. For a fisherman with nets cast wide, there was no easy escape. Each storm was a test of balance, skill, and sheer endurance. Our story begins as the sun struggles to peek over the horizon, painting the eastern sky with hues of purple and orange. The mighty Congo River, a vast artery of life and peril, stretches out before us, its surface as still and reflective as polished obsidian. But beneath this tranquil facade, ancient forces stir, promising a day of both challenge and danger for the fishermen who dare to venture out. Among them is Toko, a man whose face has been chiseled by years spent wrestling with the river's whims. His broad, muscular frame is clad only in a loincloth, leaving his powerful legs and bare chest exposed to the elements. His skin, the color of polished mahogany, is etched with lines that tell tales of battles fought and won against the river's fury. Toko, like many of his fellow fishermen, is an expert navigator of these waters, reading the subtle shifts in the wind and the barely perceptible changes in the river's flow to predict its moods. But today, even his seasoned instincts are challenged. There's a disquieting stillness in the air, a pregnant quiet that speaks of a brewing tempest. As he and his companions push out into the river, the weight of this premonition settles heavily on their shoulders. Their vessels, traditionally crafted canoes carved from the hollowed-out trunks of giant trees, cut through the placid waters with silent grace. These canoes, seemingly fragile in the face of the river's raw power, are in fact sturdy and time-tested vessels, each bearing the scars and stories of countless journeys. Paddling with long, sinewy strokes, the fishermen maintain a rhythm that is as old as the river itself, their bodies swaying in harmony with the gentle rocking of the boats. The Congo River, a living, breathing entity, mirrors the sky above, its surface an ever-changing canvas reflecting the moods of the heavens. In moments of tranquility, it offers a mirror-like reflection, creating a surreal panorama where earth and sky seem to merge seamlessly. But such serenity is deceptive. In the heart of this watery expanse, unseen forces churn, giving rise to sudden whirlpools that can capsize even the most seasoned boat. The fishermen, attuned to the river's subtle language, scan the horizon, searching for the telltale signs of trouble. Their eyes, sharp and keen, miss nothing. Even the slightest tremor in the water, the faintest ripple in the air, is noted and considered. For the fishermen of the Congo, every journey is a negotiation with the river, a delicate balancing act between respect and defiance. They understand the river's capricious nature, its capacity for sudden, violent shifts, and they navigate its waters with a mixture of caution and determination. Yet today, the river seems particularly restless. A brooding stillness hangs over the landscape, broken only by the rhythmic strokes of the paddles and the hushed murmurs of the fishermen. The air, heavy with moisture, carries the scent of distant rain, a harbinger of the storms that brew on the horizon. Toko, with his years of experience, feels the shift in the river's demeanor. He senses the tension in the very core of the Congo, as if the river itself is holding its breath, gathering strength for an imminent release. His companions, though less experienced, can't help but feel a prickle of unease. The placid surface of the river does little to ease their apprehension, for they know that beneath this deceptive calm, primal forces slumber. The Congo River is home to creatures both magnificent and menacing. Among them, the crocodiles, with their armored bodies and rows of razor-sharp teeth, are the stuff of nightmares. They lie in wait along the river banks, their eyes gleaming like malevolent stars, ever vigilant for unsuspecting prey. For the fishermen, these encounters are not just terrifying, but fraught with danger. One wrong move, one sudden splash, and the crocodiles are upon you. With lightning-fast reflexes, they strike, dragging their victims into the murky depths where sunlight dares not reach. Yet the fishermen have their own weapons, tools honed by generations of necessity, used not just for fishing, but for defense as well. When the attack comes, and come it often does, the fishermen are ready. Spears flash in the sunlight, their sharpened points aimed at the heart of the beast. The struggle is fierce, a desperate battle between man and crocodile, each as tenacious and determined as the other. The men fight with the desperation born of necessity, fueled by their primal need to survive against an adversary that not only seeks their lives, but embodies the river's untamed spirit. But even with these skills, even with their courage and determination, the fishermen walk a tightrope between life and death. The hippopotamus, another formidable inhabitant of the Congo, presents its own unique set of challenges. Massive creatures with jaws that can exert a crushing force of up to 1,800 pounds per square inch. They are the undisputed rulers of the riverbanks. Their territorial nature means confrontations with the fishermen are almost inevitable. A sudden charge from a hippo can capsize a canoe, sending its occupants tumbling into the water, at which point the hippo's massive incisors become all too real a threat. Once in the water, escape is near impossible. The hippo's bulk and agility make it a nightmare to contend with. Yet the fishermen learn to read the signs of the hippo's displeasure. The rumbling growl that reverberates through the river. The telltale sprays of water as it thrashes its bulk in the river. And when they do find themselves in the unfortunate position of facing a charging hippo, they have strategies. Some try to lure the creature away from the canoe, while others use their spears in a last-ditch effort to deter the oncoming beast. Success is not guaranteed, and the scars of past encounters, both physical and emotional, serve as grim reminders of the price of failure. The fishermen, though, are a resilient lot. They respect the hippo's power, but they refuse to be cowed by it. They understand that sharing the river with these majestic creatures comes with inherent risks, and they navigate these waters accordingly. In the heart of the Congo, the storms brew with a fury all their own. They arrive unannounced, sweeping across the landscape with the suddenness of a predator's strike. Sheets of rain pour from the sky, transforming the placid river into a raging torrent. Winds howl, tearing at the trees and whipping the surface of the river into a frenzy. For the fishermen, these storms are more than just a natural phenomenon. They are tests of endurance, of skill, and most importantly, of survival. When the storm hits, the river transforms. Its placid surface becomes a battleground where waves crash and winds scream. The fishermen, caught in the midst of this watery maelstrom, must fight to stay afloat, to keep their canoes upright amidst the chaos. Some seek shelter under the shade of tall riverbank trees, hoping the foliage will offer some respite from the deluge. Others try to paddle against the current, battling the wind and rain in a desperate bid to reach calmer waters. The storm rages on, unrelenting, indifferent to the struggles of the men it has thrown into turmoil. As night falls, the storm shows no signs of abating. The fishermen, drenched and exhausted, huddle together for warmth and comfort, sharing whatever rations they have left, their spirits as dampened as their bodies are soaked. They don't know how long the storm will last, but they know that when it ends, the river will be a different beast, swollen, angry, and unpredictable. When the first rays of sunlight finally pierce the dark clouds, the storm has passed. But the river is a changed entity. It is swollen, its banks overflowing, its current swift and treacherous. Debris of all kinds, branches, leaves, even rocks and soil, litter the water, making navigation even more challenging. But the fishermen have weathered worse. They know that in the Congo, the cycle of storms and calms is eternal. They assess the damage, checking their boats for leaks, readying their fishing gear, and once more, with a mix of reverence and defiance, they step into the river. Each stroke of the paddle echoes the resilience of the fishermen, their determination to not be deterred by the river's tantrums. As they venture out into the rain-swollen waters, they are not just fishermen, they are warriors. Their canoes are their shields, and their courage is their most potent weapon. Deep within the heart of the Congo River, the fishermen find themselves in a realm where the pursuit of sustenance turns into a daily battle against the raw forces of nature. It is a testament to their tenacity, their intimate knowledge of the river, and their unwavering commitment to survival that they not only endure these challenges, but thrive in spite of them. Theirs is a dance as old as time, a tango with danger played out on the grand stage of the Congo. The sun dips low, painting the sky in hues of dying embers, and the fishing boats start their slow drift back to shore. Their return is met not with the comforting sight of home, but with a chaos of flying sparks and leaping flames. A village consumed by an inferno that reached towards the very heavens. Their fellow villagers huddle outside the burning perimeter, faces etched with worry and grim determination. Amidst the havoc, a young boy named Nzinga struggles to awaken his father. Mbeni has been entranced by the dancing flames, his mind far from the danger closing in around him. The realization dawns on Nzinga's face, mirroring the horror that grips every adult Mbeni cannot hear. He is deaf. With shaking hands, Nzinga ushers his father away from the encroaching fire, desperation lending strength to his young limbs. Yet there is no escape. The devouring flames are relentless. With the ground trembling beneath their feet, Mbeni and Nzinga flee deeper into the heart of the forest. Behind them, the fire's insatiable hunger seems to consume everything in its path. Days turn into nights as the refugees huddle together for warmth and comfort. Hunger gnaws at their bellies, yet the fear of venturing back into the wild, untamed wilderness keeps them from foraging for food. The memory of the fire, of their destroyed homes, lingers like a haunting spectre over their camp. Then one morning, the unthinkable happens. One of the women in the camp gives birth. In the face of such profound adversity, life finds a way to endure and thrive. Despite their dire circumstances, the villagers rally together to support the new mother and child, drawing strength from the promise of a new beginning. In the ensuing weeks, the villagers decide to rebuild their lives. However, the shadow of their misfortune continues to loom over them. As they struggle to piece their lives back together, they are haunted by nightmares of fire, smoke, and loss. The weight of their trauma threatens to crush their spirits. Among them, Mbeni and Nzinga walk side by side, their shared ordeal forging an unbreakable bond between them. They help each other carry the heavy loads, share meager rations, and offer silent comfort when the memories become too overwhelming. Despite the physical toll, the father and son draw strength from their deep connection, refusing to let the tragedy extinguish their spirits. One evening, as the tired villagers gather around a small fire, someone suggests the unthinkable, returning to their village. Now nothing but smoldering ashes. Hope flickers in their eyes. Could this be the first step towards healing? Could they reclaim their land from the clutches of despair? As the first rays of dawn touch the horizon, the villagers begin their journey back to the charred remnants of their homes. Walking alongside his son, Mbeni leads the way. His steps are heavy, but his gaze is resolute, determined to confront the ghosts of their past. The road ahead is arduous, but they take the first step together. Upon reaching the edge of the wasteland that was once their village, a collective gasp escapes their lips. It is a scene of utter devastation. Homes reduced to cinders, belongings turned to ash. The familiar landmarks are gone, leaving behind a haunting emptiness. Yet, amidst the ruins, a single object catches Mbeni's eye. It is a small carving of a bird, intricately crafted and surprisingly intact amidst the destruction. It was a gift he had made for his wife, a symbol of their enduring love. The discovery brings a wave of emotions, grief, determination, and a refusal to surrender to the devastation. As the villagers begin the arduous task of surveying the damage, they are struck by the full extent of their losses. Crops are scorched, tools are broken, and the very foundations of their lives have been shaken. The weight of their misfortune threatens to overwhelm them, making the road ahead seem almost impossible. But then something remarkable happens. A young girl, emboldened by youthful spirit, suggests they should plant new crops. Her words ignite a spark of hope in the hearts of the villagers. The idea, though simple, carries with it the promise of renewal and resilience. As the villagers begin the laborious task of clearing the land for planting, Mbeni and Nzinga work side by side. With calloused hands and aching backs, they move rocks, till the soil, and prepare the seeds for sowing. The rhythm of their labor becomes a source of solace, a distraction from the haunting memories that still linger in the air. Day by day, the seeds begin to sprout, sending tiny green shoots towards the sun. This small victory over adversity rekindles a sense of purpose in the villagers. The sight of new life pushing through the barren land mirrors their own determination to grow and thrive once more. However, as the crops begin to grow, so does the danger. The dry season, with its parched earth and scorching sun, poses a new set of challenges. The relentless heat saps their strength, and the fear of losing their hard-earned progress hangs heavy over the land. To make matters worse, the animals that had fled the fire start returning, drawn by the lush vegetation growing around the village. Among them are the dreaded Kasavating baboons. Notorious for their voracious appetites, their arrival poses a grave threat to the villagers' food supply. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Mbeni calls for a village meeting. Ideas are exchanged, strategies are discussed, and finally, a plan is hatched. The men of the village will stay awake in shifts to guard the crops, sacrificing their sleep to protect their means of survival. As night falls, Mbeni joins the ranks of the sentinels, his keen eyes scanning the horizon. The hours pass slowly, and just as he's about to be relieved, the dreaded troop of baboons appears. Adrenaline surges through Mbeni as he sounds the alarm, rousing the sleeping villagers. Working together, they chase the baboons away from their fields. The invaders driven back, the villagers take stock of the damage. Though some crops are lost, the majority remains intact. Relief and gratitude wash over them, but they know the battle for survival is far from over. Months pass and the crops flourish, bearing the promise of a bountiful harvest. The once devastated land is transformed into a sea of green, a testament to the villagers' hard work and resilience. Yet a sense of unease persists in the air. For the river, their lifeline, is behaving erratically. Its waters, usually so vital for their survival, have dwindled, exposing treacherous rocks and sandbanks. The fish, once abundant, have vanished, leaving the fishermen with empty nets. The changing behavior of the river foreshadows a new set of challenges on the horizon. As the dry season progresses, the river's behavior becomes more erratic. The water level drops further, revealing dangerous obstacles that were previously hidden. Fishing, once a reliable source of protein, turns into a frustrating endeavor, with the fish seemingly disappearing altogether. This unexpected turn of events throws the villagers into a state of uncertainty. The river, which had sustained them for generations, was now behaving in ways they couldn't comprehend. It's as if the very rhythm of their lives, dictated by the water's ebb and flow, had been disrupted. In the face of this evolving crisis, Mbeni and Nzinga stand together at the river's edge, contemplating the changes they've witnessed. The normally placid water is a cracked and muddy expanse, devoid of the life that once thrived within it. Nzinga, ever curious, asks his father why the river, which had always provided for them, was now withholding its bounty. Mbeni, drawing upon his vast knowledge of the river and the wisdom passed down through generations, explains that the river is alive, a being with moods as changeable as the sky. He tells his son about the Simbi spirits that inhabit the river, about the delicate balance that must be maintained to live in harmony with the natural world. The lessons of respect and understanding are woven into tales of the river's power and unpredictability. As the sun begins its slow descent, casting long shadows over the parched landscape, Mbeni shares a crucial aspect of their culture's relationship with the river. It is not merely a source of sustenance, but a living entity deserving of reverence and care. It is a profound understanding that has guided their ancestors for generations, shaping their beliefs, their traditions, and their very survival. It is a heritage Nzinga absorbs, committing it to memory as part of his cultural identity. They stand there for a long time, father and son, united in their respect for the river and their determination to adapt to its ever-changing nature. They will need every bit of that knowledge in the days to come, because the river has begun to speak, and its message is one of change. Let's pause here for a moment. The fire crackles softly, and we rest beneath the stars. A hollow cough rattled through him. Saliva, thick and warm, slid down his throat, leaving behind a raw ache that mirrored the sun's scorching kiss on his bare shoulders. Mukanda knew that sound. It was the price they all paid, the toll of the river exacted from flesh and bone. Even now, as the storms of late afternoon subsided and the sky threatened rain, the Congo did not forgive. Even when the fish were caught and the nets mended, the cost lingered. The river was a mistress. She offered bounty, but she demanded her due. And Mukanda, like every man born to the water, lived in constant negotiation with exhaustion. He dipped his paddle into the churning brown water, tracing patterns of old scars on its surface. These were tales, etched in muscle and sinew, stories of how the river had tested and tempered him over decades. Each stroke was a conversation with his ancestors, a communion with spirits that swam in the depths and danced in the canopy above. The forest held its breath underwater. He shifted, feeling the scrape of dried mud on sun-baked skin. On his upper arms, knuckles protruded, like the knobs on a worn steering wheel. They gripped tightly the poles that guided the dugout canoe, a vessel as ancient as the river itself. Generations of his people had carved these canoes from tree trunks, coaxing them to life with fire and water. This one was Mukonda's father's, its planks smoothed by countless journeys, each creak and groan a lullaby that lulled him into the heart of the river. It was a vast domain. Crocodiles dozed like fallen logs, watching with cold reptilian eyes. Schools of fish, silver flashes and dark shapes, chased each other in the clear shallows, while the deeper pools lay shrouded in mystery. Here, legends swam alongside the catfish, the manatee and the eels. Mukanda knew this kingdom intimately. He read the language of the wind whispering through the tall grasses, the secrets carried by the tumbling water, the messages etched in each rock monolith that guarded the river's course. His people had navigated these waters for millennia, shaping their lives around the Congo's rhythms. Their villages, Ikondas scattered jewels along the shore, pulsed with the energy of fishermen. Their traditions, beliefs, and even their bodies bore witness to the river's enduring legacy. In the evenings, the river breathed stories into the night. When fireflies winked and the moon painted silver paths on the water, elders sat on woven mats, their voices low and resonant. They wove tales of mythical creatures, of heroes and tricksters, of gods who walked the earth and fished the mighty Congo. These stories were more than entertainment. They were threads that bound the community together, a shared history that echoed in the rustling leaves and the murmuring stream. Theirs was a culture nurtured by the river's bounty, where respect for the natural world was a way of life. Every fish had its story, every bend in the river its legend. The Congo flowed through their veins, as much a part of them as the air they breathed. Yet the river was not a benevolent mother. She tested her children. The youngest, those blessed with speed and strength, were flung into the depths, tasked to swim against the current, battling the water's fury to prove their mettle. For only those who conquered the river's wrath were deemed worthy to join the ranks of fishermen. And what was fishing but a dance with danger? To cast a net was to wage war against unseen foes. Spider lilies bloomed on the water, their beauty belying the deadly grip of their roots. Sleeping crocodiles stirred with rumbling threats, and the elusive river horse, a creature of myth and menace, lurked just beyond the veil of reality. As darkness crept in, casting long shadows that stretched and distorted on the bank, the jungle came alive with unseen presences. Crickets chirped, frogs croaked, and the distant call of a chimpanzee echoed through the trees. In this symphony of sounds, there was an undercurrent of menace. The rustle of leaves could signal a lurking predator. A snapping twig, the approach of danger. For Mukanda and his fellow fishermen, life was a tightrope walk between prosperity and peril. While the Congo nourished their bodies, it also demanded a heavy toll. The relentless battle against the elements left its mark on their faces, etched with the harsh lines of squinting eyes and weathered skin. Their bodies bore the burden of generations past, seasoned by countless battles with the elements. Theirs was a profession not for the faint of heart, a life where each new day brought forth challenges as unpredictable as the river's moods. The simple act of fishing became a meditation on existence, a constant negotiation between man and nature. With calloused hands, they hauled in their nets, each movement a testament to years of practice. The mesh held silvery treasures, but also reminders of the river's indifference. Sometimes it yielded nothing but weeds and mud, forcing the fishermen to return home empty-handed, their bellies growling in protest. Fishing was a negotiation with the river's capriciousness, an acceptance of both its bounty and its stinginess. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Mukonda's thoughts drifted to his family. His wife's gentle smile, the laughter of his children, the scent of wood smoke curling from their hut. These were the anchors that tethered him to life. Yet being a fisherman meant saying goodbye to these comforts at dawn, traveling into a world where only the toughest survived. It was a solitude he shared with countless others, a camaraderie forged in the face of danger and disappointment. Together, they formed a brotherhood, united by the hopes and dreams that flickered like flames in the gathering darkness. When the night deepened and the stars glittered like celestial fish in the inky expanse, they gathered around flickering fires. The air filled with the aroma of grilled fish, cassava, and plantains. Over their meals, stories circulated, tales of daring escapes from rampaging hippos, close encounters with venomous snakes, and victories over the river's most elusive prey. Some nights, when the mood turned solemn, they spoke of losses, of those swallowed by the river's unforgiving depths, of the nightmares that haunted their sleep, and of the sacrifices made to appease the river's restless spirits. In these moments, the weight of their chosen profession pressed heavily upon them. They were not merely fishermen. They were storytellers, myth-makers, and survivors. With the rising sun, their worries receded, replaced by the rituals of preparation. They rubbed their bodies with protective charms, made offerings to the river gods, and set out. Into the endless blue, their canoes slicing through the waves, carrying with them the hopes and dreams of their families, their communities, and their souls. And so, day after day, year after year, they danced with the river, forever bound to its rhythm. Their songs echoed across the water, mingling with the cries of birds and the roar of the rapids. Their presence reverberated through the jungle, a testament to the enduring spirit of those who dared to live on the edge of the wild. They were the fishermen of the Congo, storytellers, myth-makers, and survivors. Their lives were a tapestry woven with the threads of danger, despair, and hope, all under the watchful gaze of the eternal river. One by one, they disappeared from the riverbank, some taken by the river, some lost to time. And so it went, generation after generation, the fisherman's song echoing into the heart of the Congo. Even now, as twilight draped the land in cool colors and the chorus of cicadas hushed, Mukunda felt the pull of the river's embrace. With a final paddle stroke, he steered his canoe towards the waiting shadows. The jungle, a vast and ancient realm, stirred with unseen activity. The rhythmic chirping of crickets blended with the distant calls of nocturnal creatures, creating a symphony of sound that echoed through the emerald embrace. Here, amidst the towering trees and vibrant foliage, reality blurred with mythology. Legends whispered on the wind, carried on the wings of butterflies, and woven into the tapestry of the night. Spider lilies unfurled their haunting beauty, a stark reminder of the river's duality, delicate yet deadly, enchanting yet unforgiving. As the last vestiges of daylight surrendered to the encroaching gloom, Mukunda's senses sharpened. Decades of navigating the river's mysteries had honed him into a creature of the twilight. He moved with the grace of one born of water and shadow, his eyes reflecting the wisdom of countless journeys. The river's face, obscured by the play of light and darkness, became a canvas of mystery. The gentle lapping of water against his canoe was a lullaby that lulled him deeper into the river's embrace. With each stroke of his paddle, he inched closer to the heart of the river's magic. The silence was not absolute. It was punctuated by the haunting melody of a lone bullfrog, its croaking a melancholic counterpoint to the symphony of the jungle. Above him, the canopy of stars twinkled like celestial companions, silently guiding him through the river's labyrinthine embrace. In this ethereal realm, where day surrendered to night and the river held its breath, Mukanda felt a profound sense of connection. Not just to the river, but to the very essence of existence. His life, a tapestry woven with the threads of tradition, courage, and resilience, unfolded before him, as timeless as the river itself. And as the night deepened, he paddled on, enveloped by the mystique of the Congo. The Congo fisherman never casts his net without first whispering words into the river. To an outsider, these words might sound like a string of murmurs carried away by the breeze. But to the fisherman, they were a bridge, a link between himself and the spirits dwelling in the waters. The Congo River was not just a place of labor. It was alive, inhabited by unseen forces whose moods could shift with the tide. Fishing was not only about skill and endurance, but about showing respect to those who owned the waters long before humans dared to set their boats afloat. The prayer often began at dawn, when the river still shimmered in mist. A fisherman would stand barefoot on the bank, sprinkle a little palm wine, or drop a piece of cassava into the current. These offerings were not waste, but negotiations. Gifts meant to ask permission for what he was about to take. Every fish, every catch, was understood as a life borrowed from the spirits, a debt to be honored. Without this ritual, the waters could turn hostile. Nets might tangle. Storms might rise without warning, or crocodiles could appear from the depths like punishers sent from the spirit world. As the sun climbed higher, fishermen would spread their nets, each movement measured and respectful. Tying the last knot, one fisherman would pause, straighten his shoulders, and murmur a few words over the net, imbuing it with power. Then, with a final splash of palm wine, the net was cast into the river. Not just a collection of ropes and twine, but an offering, a gift to the spirits. Fishermen also negotiated with their surroundings, building relationships with trees, rocks, and animals. If a tree was convenient for tying up a canoe, a fisherman might ask its permission before doing so, explaining why he needed the tree's help. He might offer a prayer to the bird sitting on a branch above him, asking for good fortune and thanking the bird for sharing its space. This way, the riverbank became more than just a place of utility. It transformed into a community of relationships, each tie creating a layer of protection in a world where dangers were as real as the crocodile lurking just below the surface. In the evenings, when fishermen returned to shore, their catch held not only sustenance, but a connection to the spirit world. A particularly large or beautiful fish might be set free with a prayer, a gesture to remind the spirits that not everything taken was kept, and that some things were too precious to be merely consumed. These acts were not mere superstition. They were a way of ensuring harmony with the environment, a practice born out of deep understanding and respect. This respect extended to the very heart of their tradition, the NKC. These sacred objects were not idols or lifeless totems. They were embodiments of spirits, believed to be active, intelligent beings requiring care and communication. Each Nekizi represented a particular spirit, ranging from ancestral beings to elemental forces of nature. They weren't just revered, they were consulted, their guidance sought on matters big and small. Before making important decisions, villagers might hold ceremonies, asking the Ensais for direction through divination. The Ensais, it was believed, didn't just offer prophecies, they mediated between the human world and the spirit realm, their whispers carrying messages of advice, warnings, and blessings. The role of the Nkaizi in daily life was immense, influencing decisions related to health, agriculture, justice, and even war. For instance, if a person fell ill, the Nkaizi might be consulted to determine the cause of the sickness. Was it an imbalance of forces within the individual or an external malevolent influence? Once the nature of the problem was understood, the NKC could then help in finding solutions. This could involve rituals to restore balance, herbal remedies, or even sacrifices to appease malevolent spirits. Similarly, before embarking on a journey, a traveler would often consult their NKC, seeking protection, safe passage, and a successful return. These interactions weren't one-sided. Enkai were believed to have needs and desires just like any other living being. They had to be respected, appeased, and in some cases, even feasted with offerings of food, drink, and sometimes animal sacrifice. This was crucial because the favor and protection of the Ensais were sought after, but their displeasure could lead to severe consequences. An Nkisi that felt neglected or disrespected could turn against its human counterparts, causing illness, misfortune, or even death. Therefore, maintaining a good relationship with the Ensais was not just a matter of faith, but a practical necessity for survival and well-being. To outsiders, these beliefs might seem complex, even puzzling. Why wouldn't these people just trust in a single, more easily definable deity? But to the Congo people, this web of spiritual relationships was not confusing, but reassuring. In a world full of uncertainties, the NKC provided a sense of order and predictability. Their presence offered a tangible link to the spiritual realm. A realm where balance, respect, and reciprocity were not just abstract concepts, but the keys to survival. In the dense, vibrant world of the Congo rainforest, where life teemed in every shade and sound, the Congo people found their spirituality. It wasn't confined to temples or texts, but lived in the everyday, in the whisper of the wind through the trees, in the glisten of sunlight on a spider's web, and in the timeless wisdom of their ancestors echoed in the rhythms of the NKC. This is a story from the Congo River, where ancient traditions meet the untamed wilderness, shaping a culture deeply rooted in the mysteries of the natural world. The Congo River, with its ever-changing moods, its teeming life, and its depths concealing ancient secrets, stands as a testament to the human spirit's enduring quest to understand and coexist with the forces of nature. As the sun sets over the horizon, casting long shadows over the river's edge, the stories of the Congo fishermen serve as a reminder that our relationship with the world around us is not just a matter of survival, but a dance of respect, understanding, and reciprocity. The Congo fishermen and the people of the Congo teach us that in the intricate tapestry of life, every thread, whether visible or unseen, contributes to the grand design. Their stories echo with the wisdom of their ancestors, guiding them and shaping their lives along the mighty Congo River, the lifeblood of their world. Not every day was meant for casting nets. In Congo society, the river itself set boundaries that people had to respect, and the black and white logic of survival, catch or starve, was softened by taboos. These rules were not arbitrary. They grew from centuries of observation and belief, woven into law by elders and priests. To fish on certain days, in certain places, or for certain species could invite disaster, not just for one man, but for his whole village. One of the strongest taboos concerned sacred stretches of the river. Some channels were said to be inhabited by powerful Simbai water spirits who guarded their domains jealously. Fishermen avoided those zones unless invited by a ritual specialist, for the risk of angering a Simbi was too high. Men told stories of boats overturned by unseen hands, or of fishermen who vanished into calm water without a splash, never to be found again. Such tales were not told to frighten children, but to remind grown men of the invisible currents beneath the visible ones. The river's heart was believed to be ruled by a supreme water spirit, Nzambi, a reflection of the supreme creator God. Nzambi's presence was felt most keenly during storms, when the river unleashed its fury on those who dared cross it. But even in calm times, fishermen paid homage. Before leaving shore, each man offered a prayer, asking permission to fish and promising to return safely. He might throw in a small gift, a banana bunch or a hen, then wait for a reply. If the river rippled in response, the offering was accepted. If the water stayed still, the fisherman waited another day. There were also seasonal taboos. During spawning times, when fish laid their eggs in quiet inlets, fishermen were forbidden from setting their nets. This was not only spiritual, but practical, an early form of conservation disguised as ritual law. Breaking this rule was believed to draw curses on the offender's household. Sick children, failed harvests, or nets that tore apart no matter how often they were repaired. In truth, it also ensured the community's survival, for a river stripped bare one year might give nothing the next. Other taboos dealt with the fisherman himself, a man who had quarreled violently or whose household was in mourning was sometimes banned from fishing for a time. It was believed that anger, grief, or blood attracted misfortune, polluting the balance needed for safe journeys. Elders insisted that only those in harmony with their households and ancestors could step onto the water. This meant fishing was not just labor. It was a mirror of one's spiritual condition. A careless man carried his chaos into the canoe, and the river would not forgive him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the village elder named Imbia sat on the bank preparing his nets. His grandson, Abini, perched beside him, eager to learn the secrets of fishing. From mending nets to reading the water, Abini absorbed his grandfather's wisdom like a sponge. But today, a question burned in his mind. "Grandpa," he began, his voice echoing the rhythm of the lapping waves. "Why do we need all these rules? Can't we just fish whenever and wherever we want?" His question hung in the air, suspended between the fading light and the inky expanse of the coming night. Mbia paused his work, his calloused hands still and wise. He looked at his grandson, his face a map of wrinkles etched by years spent under the sun and the stars. "Ah, Baini," he began, his voice a low rumble like distant thunder. "The river is more than just water. It is the heart of our world." He gestured to the vastness of the Congo, its surface shimmering under the last rays of the setting sun. "This great body of water is alive. It breathes and feels like you and me. And within its depths, there are spirits, ancient and powerful, who watch over the river's health and our people's well-being." Abini's eyes widened. The river alive, with spirits watching over them. It sounded like a tale from the Bwend, the legendary ancestors who lived in harmony with nature. Mbia continued, "These spirits, the Simbi, demand respect. They test us to see if we are worthy of the river's gifts. If we break their laws, they can turn on us, causing harm to our families and our community." He picked up a net, its holes forming a constellation of knowledge passed down through generations. For example, during spawning season, when the fish come to lay their eggs, we must let them be. It is a time for new life, and we are not to disturb it. If we break this law, we bring bad luck upon ourselves. Our children will fall sick, our crops will wither, and our nets will tear, no matter how well we mend them. Aben nodded, understanding dawning on him like the first light of dawn. It wasn't just about not catching fish, it was about respecting the cycle of life. And Bia added, "And not only the river spirits, we must also be in harmony with our own spirits, our minds and hearts. A man filled with anger or grief cannot fish. He brings his troubles to the river and invites misfortune. He looked at his grandson, his gaze steady and deep like the river itself. Fishing is more than just a way to put food in our bellies. It is a dance with life, a conversation with the spirits. It is a test of our character and a reminder of our place in the great web of existence. Abeni absorbed his grandfather's words, letting them sink into his heart like seeds into fertile soil. The river was not just water. It was a living, breathing entity, a source of life and a teacher of balance. As darkness fell, they packed up their fishing gear, the tools of their trade now silent. Abeni walked beside his grandfather, their shadows stretching long in the gathering gloom. "So which spirits live in the river?" Abeni asked, his curiosity piqued. Mbia smiled, his eyes twinkling like stars beginning to peek through the canopy. "Oh, there are many," he said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "There are the Inyanga, the healers, who dwell in the medicinal plants that grow along the banks. And then there are the Nkaizi, the guardians of the crossroads, where the river bends." They reached their village, its huts nestled together like gossiping friends under the watchful eyes of the elders. The night was alive with the sounds of crickets and the distant calls of nocturnal fishers. "But tonight we honor one spirit in particular," Mbia said, turning to face his grandson. "Nzambi, the water spirit, the heart of the Congo." Together they walked to the river's edge. The water was still, reflecting the inky blackness of the night sky sprinkled with a million diamond stars. Mbia dipped a leaf into the water, letting it float away like a tiny boat on an endless sea. "Oh, Mbia," he called out, his voice echoing across the water. "We thank you for the bounty of the river. We ask for your blessing on our families and our village. We promise to care for your children, the fish, and to honor the laws of the river." As he spoke, Abeni felt a profound connection to the river, to his ancestors and to the spirits that watched over them. Fishing was not just a means to an end. It was a way of life, a dance of interdependence between humans and the natural world. In the stillness that followed, they heard a ripple, a gentle response from the heart of the river. Abeni's heart swelled with a sense of belonging, of being part of something larger than himself. He understood now why his people revered the river and its spirits. It was not just about survival, it was about thriving in harmony with the rhythms of the natural world. As the night deepened and the stars twinkled above, Abeni and his grandfather stood together, united with their ancestors and the spirits of the river in a timeless bond of respect and reciprocity. And in the heart of the Congo, the eternal dance of life went on. And so the lessons of the river flowed into Abeni's soul, shaping him into a man who understood that true strength came not from dominating nature, but from living in harmony with it. Flow with the rhythm of life and find strength in its eternal dance. The Congo River was not only a body of water, it was a being. Alive and temperamental, giving generously one day and taking cruelly the next. For the Congo fisherman, every cast of the net was more than a test of skill. It was a negotiation with forces unseen. To fish was to ask, and to return safely was to be answered. When the river gave, it could overflow with blessing. Nets came back heavy with catfish and tilapia, so heavy to men strained to pull them ashore. Smokehouses filled with drying meat, markets bustled with trade, and families ate until their bellies were round with satisfaction. These moments were spoken of as the river's smile, a sign that ancestors had interceded, that spirits were pleased, and that the community had walked rightly. Gratitude was never forgotten. Libations of palm wine were poured back into the river, tokens of thanks for a favor received. But when the river turned its face away, the lesson was harsh. Nets rose empty for days, even weeks, leaving men weak with hunger. Storms could snatch whole canoes and drag them under, scattering bodies and wood alike. Crocodiles lurked in silent channels, spirits with teeth, as fishermen called them. To lose a life to the river was never described as mere accident. It was said that the river had called him, that some imbalance had demanded a price. Families mourned but also searched for meaning. Which taboo had been broken, which offering forgotten, which quarrel left unresolved. Let's pause here for a moment. The fire flickers low, and the hush of the night presses gently against our ears. Fishing, then, was never routine labor. It was a covenant. Men bargained with songs sung at dawn, with small gifts cast into the waters, a pinch of food, a few drops of oil, sometimes even a carved charm tied to the prow of a canoe. These acts acknowledged that the river was no slave to human need. The bargain reminded everyone, take only what you are given, never what you demand. In this way, fishing became both survival and spiritual practice, a rhythm of asking, receiving, and respecting. Let's pause here for a moment. The fire crackles once more, and the night deepens as the river continues its eternal song. Now, let's continue with the story. In the heart of the Congo rainforest, where emerald shadows dance on the mighty Congo River, lived the Bakongo people. Their lives were as intricate and winding as the river itself, deeply connected to its rhythms and mysteries. For them, the Congo was more than just water flowing between banks. It was a living, breathing entity, a powerful force that demanded respect and offered bounty at its own discretion. Every aspect of their lives, from the planting of crops to the fishing in the river, was a negotiation with the spirit of the Congo. Amongst them were the Nganga, or medicine men, who served as intermediaries between the tangible world and the unseen forces that governed it. They were the ones who understood the language of the river best, who knew how to appease its moods and interpret its signs. With their deep knowledge of herbs, rituals, and ancestral wisdom, they ensured the balance between humanity and the spirit of the Congo was maintained. One of these, Ngonga, was a wise old man named Mbulu, who was revered by his community for his understanding of the river. His hut, nestled at the edge of the village near the riverbank, was a sanctuary of sorts, filled with the scent of drying herbs and the hushed whispers of spirits. It was here, in this humble abode, that Mbulu would commune with the forces of the Congo, seeking guidance for his people and ensuring their continued prosperity. His methods were simple yet profound. He would often sit for hours by the river, seemingly lost in contemplation, but actually engaged in a silent dialogue with the very essence of the Congo. Sometimes he would emerge from these sessions with a new ritual to perform, a song to chant, or a warning to heed. But always there was a sense of urgency, a call to action that resonated with the villagers. One such instance occurred during a time when the river was unusually turbulent. The normally placid waters were now rough and unpredictable, mirroring the growing unease in the hearts of the villagers. The fish, once plentiful, had vanished, making fishing nets return day after day empty. Hunger began to gnaw at their bellies, and fear tightened its grip on their souls. Mbulu, sensing the gravity of the situation, retreated to his hut by the river. Days turned into nights as he sat in his dimly lit hut, the river's turmoil echoing his own internal struggle to understand the spirit's message. Finally, as the sun began its journey to the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, he emerged from his hut. His face, usually etched with serenity, was now creased with worry. He called for the village elders, and when they gathered before him, he imparted the message he had received from the river. It was a message of imbalance, of disrespect, of a world out of order. The river, he explained, was not merely a source of sustenance, but a living being deserving of reverence. Their actions, or more importantly, their inactions, had upset the delicate equilibrium that sustained them. He spoke of a ritual, a grand ceremony that would right the wrongs, appease the river's wrath, and restore balance to their lives. The villagers, desperate and hungry, listened intently. They agreed to perform the ritual, hoping it would turn the tide and bring back the fish. The ceremony was a spectacle of color, sound, and emotion. The entire village participated, each person bringing their unique offering to the grand display of devotion. There were dances that mimicked the river's flow, songs that echoed its power, and offerings of food and drink that symbolized their dependence on the river's bounty. At the center of it all stood Mbulu, the Nganga, his voice resonating with conviction as he led the chants, and his hands weaving intricate patterns in the air as he called upon the spirits of the river. The ritual went on for days, a testament to the depth of their commitment and the severity of the river's displeasure. As the final notes of the ceremony echoed over the water, a profound silence fell over the village. The villagers, exhausted but hopeful, retired to their homes, their prayers whispered on their lips. The next morning, when the sun rose over the horizon, it brought with it the promise of a new day, a day that could change their fortunes. As the first rays of sunlight touched the surface of the Congo, the villagers gathered once again at the riverbank. They were there to fish, not with the expectation of catching much, but with the hope that the ritual had appeased the river enough to grant them some sustenance. As the nets were cast into the water, a collective breath was held. When the nets were pulled in, gasps of surprise rippled through the crowd. They were heavy with fish, so heavy that several men struggled to haul them in. The fish, glistening silver in the morning light, seemed to pour out of the net, their scales shimmering like 1,000 tiny mirrors. It wasn't just the quantity, but also the variety that astonished them. Fish of all shapes and sizes lay in their nets, many species they hadn't seen in months. The news spread like wildfire through the village, awakening a sleeping giant. Soon, the riverbank was teeming with villagers, each eager to test their luck and claim a share of the river's bounty. And as the days passed, the river continued to give, seemingly in a generous mood, providing enough fish not just for the villagers' needs, but even for trade. The markets overflowed, the smoke houses filled, and most importantly, hunger receded from their homes. In the evenings, when the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the river, there were celebrations. Songs rang out, drums beat, and dances became a blur of motion and joy. Each movement, each laugh, each clap was a hymn to the river, a hymn of gratitude and submission. Mbulu, watching the festivities, felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The ritual had worked, balance had been restored, but he also knew it was a temporary reprieve. The river's moods were as changeable as the seasons, and they, the villagers, were forever bound to its whims. As the night deepened and the laughter echoed over the still water, he retreated to his hut. It was time to prepare for the next challenge, to ready themselves for the inevitable lean times when the river would turn its face away. For Mbulu understood the true nature of their existence. They were not masters of the river, but students, learning the lessons of balance, respect and gratitude, lessons that would shape not just their present, but their future. In the heart of the Congo rainforest, where the river was more than just water, but a living, breathing entity, the Bakongo people learned to navigate the complexities of their existence. Their story is a testament to the power of belief, the importance of tradition, and the enduring relationship between humanity and the natural world. And as the Congo River continues its eternal flow, it carries with it the echoes of their lives. a melody of survival, resilience, and respect. The canoe was more than wood carved from a fallen tree. For the Congo fisherman and trader, it was a living companion, a bridge between villages, a cradle upon the waters, and a vessel of both commerce and prayer. In the Congo basin, where roads were scarce and forests dense, the river was the great highway, and the canoe was its chariot. A canoe was more than just a boat to the Congo people. It was a partner, a confidant, and a vessel of dreams. But the story of the canoe is also a story of the river, for without the river there would be no canoe. The mighty Congo River was the lifeblood of the region, a highway without roads, a market without stalls, a lifeline without borders. Its waters carried the canoes like cradles on a sea of green, weaving through the dense forest that guarded its banks. This is the story of the river and the canoe. It's episode 3, part 1 of our series exploring the heart of the Congo rainforest. We hope you enjoy this episode, and thank you for joining us today. The creation of a canoe was not just a craft, it was a conversation with the forest itself. The Congo people understood that the river gave and the river took, and so they treated the making of their canoes with reverence. Not every tree was worthy of becoming a canoe. The fisherman or trader who wished to build one would first seek the counsel of the village elders. They would journey into the forest together, not with axes in hand, but with offerings in mind. They would identify a tree with a straight, sturdy trunk, one that had reached for the sky with grace and stood the test of time. But before a single stroke of the axe, they would make offerings at the tree's roots, a whispered apology for the impending loss, a scattering of leaves, and sometimes even a small animal sacrifice. Only after these rituals were complete could the tree be touched, carved and smoothed into form by the skilled hands of the canoe maker. The builder's adze was not just a tool, but an instrument of awakening, coaxing the spirit of the tree into its new role as guardian of the waters. When the canoe was complete, it was more than just a vessel. It was a member of the family, a silent, sturdy partner. Before its maiden voyage, there would be more rituals, more offerings, more prayers. The elders might bless the canoe with palm wine, rubbing the liquid along its sides as if anointing a child. Charms of bone or metal would be tied near the bow, wards against the dangers of the river, protection against crocodiles and storms. The fisherman would whisper to it before setting out, words of respect, words of partnership, words of love. He would speak of the river's moods, the changing winds, the hidden snags, and the keeper of the river's heart, the spirit that dwelt within the depths. The fisherman knew that his life would depend upon the canoe's strength and balance, and so his care for it was constant. Each day he would check the lashings, the seams, and the hull, whispering reassurances to his faithful companion. The canoe, in turn, seemed to listen, its timbers sighing in response, its planks creaking in understanding. But the canoe was more than just a means of transport. It was a window to the world. With it, the fisherman could trade the day's catch of fish for salt, cloth, or even iron tools. From a distance, the canoe looked like a black arrow slicing through the emerald green water. Up close, it was a universe unto itself, a world of rhythmic splashes, gentle rocking, and the murmur of secrets shared between man and machine. As the canoe glided through the water, its prow would rise and fall, dip and dive, always seeking the smoothest path, the surest route. The fisherman, with his years of experience, knew how to read the river, how to anticipate its moods, how to navigate its twists and turns. He would paddle with one hand while using the other to guide the canoe, keeping it on course, avoiding the submerged logs and sandbars that lay in wait. At times, the river would grow rough, the current swift, the waves high. But the canoe, with its deep hull and sturdy frame, would hold firm, battling the elements, pressing on towards its destination. The life of a fisherman was not easy, but with a good canoe, it was possible. Possible to survive, possible to thrive, and possible to dream. The canoe was a link in a chain that stretched far beyond the river's edge, connecting villages that would otherwise be weeks apart by foot, carrying stories, marriages, and alliances along with their cargo. In the vast expanse of the Congo rainforest, where the sun struggled to penetrate the thick canopy and where the air hung heavy with humidity, the river was the artery that pulsed with life. It carried the canoes like capsules of hope, shuttling people and goods across its churning waters, weaving together the disparate threads of the forest into a vibrant tapestry of trade and community. The canoe, a silent witness to centuries of life on the river, bore the scars of its journeys, each scratch and dent telling a tale of daring escapes, narrow victories, and the relentless passage of time. The fisherman, with his weather-beaten face and calloused hands, was a master of his domain, reading the river's moods as easily as one reads the lines on the palm of one's hand. His knowledge of the forest, of its creatures and plants, was vast and deep, and he used it to protect himself from the river's dangers. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the water, the fisherman felt the familiar tug of responsibility pulling at him. It was time to return home, to navigate the river's treacherous embrace in the fading light. Yet, even as darkness crept in, he found solace in the rhythm of the water, the gentle sway of the canoe, and the lullaby of the forest. Each stroke of his paddle echoed the heartbeat of the river, a primal drumbeat that had resonated through the ages. The canoe, with its comforting creaks and groans, became a vessel not just of trade, but of dreams, carrying with it the hopes and aspirations of the people who depended on its sturdy frame to traverse the river's unforgiving might. For the Congo people, the river was more than just a waterway. It was a living, breathing entity, a force of nature that demanded respect and offered bounty in return. And it was in this delicate balance, this intricate dance between humanity and the natural world, that the true essence of the Congo rainforest lay hidden, waiting to be discovered by those who dared to venture into its emerald depths. The canoe was a portal to the soul of the Congo, a gateway to a world untouched by time, where the rhythm of the river dictated. The pace of life and the whispers of the forest carried secrets as old as the earth itself. In the heart of the Congo rainforest, where the mighty Congo River dances, lived a people whose connection to the river went beyond just living beside it. Their lives were intertwined with it. They were the Congo people, and for them, the river's bounty was more than just food or money. It was a reflection of their existence, their community, and their history. And one of the most important parts of this story is the fish. Not just any fish, mind you, but the fish that told stories, the ones that became more than just a meal. Now, picture this. At dawn, when the mist still clung to the surface of the Congo River, fishermen would push their canoes toward market towns along the banks. These were not merely places of exchange, but theaters of human life, where the wealth of the river met the hunger of the people. The fish, caught with aching arms and sweat-soaked brows, became more than food. They became currency, a language of trade, and sometimes even a tool of diplomacy. As the sun climbed higher, the river's gifts started arriving at the market stalls. Imagine a kaleidoscope of colors and textures. There were bundles of smoked fish hanging from every available space, their savory aroma mingling with the scent of wood smoke and river mud. Fresh tilapia, its scales shimmering like scattered jewels, was piled high in woven baskets, each fish a potential meal for hungry families. The air buzzed with activity as buyers and sellers alike converged on these floating marketplaces. Some came seeking sustenance, while others brought goods to trade, linking their fates to the fortunes of the fishermen and the bounty of the river. As the day wore on, the fish traded hands, changing not just owners, but purposes. A fisherman, after offering up his catch, might turn his attention to other stalls, perhaps purchasing a length of cloth for a new garment or a small mirror that glinted like a captured star. Meanwhile, a mother might exchange a basket of fish for grain to make bread for her family, ensuring that the river's gift provided nourishment for days to come. Each transaction, though, was more than just an exchange of goods. It was a conversation, a silent dialogue between those who lived off the land and those who made it their life's work to bring in the harvest. The market stalls were alive with movement. Smoked fish hanging in bundles, fresh tilapia piled high in woven baskets, the air rich with the mingled scents of river mud, salt, and palm oil. Yet the exchange was rarely loud or brash. Many trades were done with quiet nods, subtle gestures, or murmured words. In Congo culture, markets thrived not on shouting but on trust, rhythm, and ritual. A fisherman might hand over his fish in silence, while the salt trader counted out her offering of crystals, their surfaces glinting like captured fragments of the sun. Each interaction, whether spoken or unspoken, wove another thread into the tapestry of life along the Congo River. A tapestry where the fish were more than just a protein source. They were storytellers. They spoke of the river's abundance, of the skill of the fishermen, and of the resilience of the people who called this mighty waterway their lifeline. As the afternoon shadows grew longer, the pace of trading began to slow. Families, their day's needs met, started returning home, carrying with them not just provisions, but stories of the day's events. The fish, now safely tucked away, would later become meals, nourishing bodies, and sharing tales of the bustling market by the river. For the Congo people, the fish from the Congo River were more than just food. They were a testament to life, a celebration of the river's bounty, and a reminder of the intricate dance between humans and the natural world around them. A little further up the river, nestled amongst the vibrant green of the rainforest, sat a village. It wasn't just any village. It was Nzinga, a Kiluanji, the place where the river sang its secrets. Here, the houses weren't just shelters. They were testaments to generations past, each with its own story to tell. Life here revolved around the river. Its moods dictated their days, and its bounty sustained their lives. The villagers woke with the sunrise, their days filled with the rhythm of the river. Some set out in canoes to fish, their movements as graceful on the water as the kingfishers that dive for their prey. Others stayed on land, tending to their fields or crafting goods to trade, their hands moving with the practiced ease of generations of river dwellers. For them, life wasn't just about surviving. It was about thriving, about finding harmony with the river's cycles and the land's rhythms. As the morning mist cleared, revealing the river in all its glory, the villagers gathered at the central market. It wasn't just a place to buy and sell. It was a social hub, a place where gossip mingled with the scent of wood smoke and river fish. Here, a skilled woodworker might trade a stool hewn from a fallen tree, its smooth curves a testament to his craft. Or a weaver would offer cloth dyed in the vibrant hues of the rainforest, each pattern telling a silent story of her village's heritage. Yet, amidst the lively banter, there was always an undercurrent of respect for the river. They knew that their prosperity wasn't guaranteed, but depended on the river's whims and the balance of their ecosystem. So every offering was made with care, every transaction with respect. For the villagers of Nzinga, a Kiluanji, life by the river was more than just an existence. It was a way of life, a life filled with challenges, yes, but also with creativity, resilience, and a deep, abiding connection to the natural world. In the fading light of dusk, as the sky blazed with colors of orange and purple, the villagers returned home, carrying not just their purchases, but the warmth of community and the promise of another day by the river. Their homes weren't just places of rest, they were anchors of love and laughter, each with its own story to tell and its own dreams to nurture. Life in the village of Nzinga, a Kiluanji, was more than just a way to survive. It was a celebration of life, a tribute to the river and a testament to the human spirit's ability to find joy and community in the heart of the African rainforest. As the night deepened and the stars emerged, casting their silvery light on the sleeping village, one couldn't help but feel a sense of peace. This wasn't just a place. It was a living, breathing entity. A place where the river sang its secrets and the people listened with open hearts and grateful souls. The Congo River flowed on, carrying with it the stories of the fishermen, the traders and the villagers, each playing their part in the grand theatre of life. And as the moon replaced the sun, the river's song echoed through the night, a timeless melody of life, resilience, and the enduring bond between humanity and the natural world. We've come to the end of our journey today, but our story isn't over. We've met the Congo people, walked their markets, and seen their lives unfold along the mighty Congo River. Remember the lessons we learned today. Every fish has a story. Every trade holds memories. And every river carries the hopes and dreams of those who live by its banks. We have been telling stories about the great empires of the past. Mali, Songhai, Kanem, Ghana, Askia. We have spoken of kings who controlled vast territories and accumulated huge amounts of gold and silver. But how did ordinary people earn money? What did riches look like for those who lived in the shadow of the empires? How did they build wealth in a world where emperors amassed untold treasures? For many, the answer lay on the water, on the ebb and flow of the mighty Niger River. If you are new here, welcome to my channel, where I bring you stories of Africa's past. Today, we journey to the lands watered by the Niger, where our tale begins. For centuries, the Niger was more than a waterway. It was the lifeblood of the region. The river's rhythms dictated daily life, influenced how people made money, and shaped how they viewed wealth itself. People along the Niger didn't measure riches simply by land, cattle, or harvest. No, for them, true wealth was what the water gave and what it allowed to pass. A man who mastered the river's moods could change his fortune almost overnight. Fishing at the right season, transporting salt, cola nuts, or cloth by canoe, or even just renting his boat to merchants. All these could bring in riches in ways farming never promised. But each gain had its shadow, for the river never gave without testing. The Niger demanded a price for every bounty, a reminder that profit was a negotiation, not a guarantee. Those who lived around the river understood this well. They respected the river's power. They feared its sudden turns and never took its bounty for granted. You see, across generations, families told stories of men who grew rich on fish only to lose their nets, their canoes, or even their lives when the water turned. So no matter how much wealth one gained on the river, there was always the knowledge that the river could just as swiftly take it all away. Let's meet some of these men and women of the river. First, we have the fishermen. For them, the river was a livelihood and a gamble. Every cast net was a prayer, and every haul could mean the difference between a day's food and a week's feast. Their catch, often dried and smoked, became a valuable trade item, carried by canoe to markets far and wide. Next, we meet the canoemen, the navigators of the Niger. These men weren't just boatmen, They were the lifeblood of the river's trade. Transporting goods and people up and down the river, they were vital to the movement of salt, cola nuts, cloth, and other commodities. The canoemen were the ones who truly owned the river, reading its moods, navigating its twists, and bargaining with its currents. Then there were the traders, those who dealt in the goods that flowed through the river's veins. Some bought and sold in bulk, linking distant markets from Timbuktu to the forest regions far to the south. Others specialized in particular items like salt, a commodity so precious that it was likened to gold. And finally, the women. Often unsung, they played a pivotal role. Women smoked the fish, prepared the goods, and transported them to market. They carried the weight of the household on their backs, turning a single trip into a family's fortune. Each of these roles, from the fisherman casting his net to the trader counting his profits, was a dance with the river. Each success was a victory over the water's challenges, each setback a reminder of the river's capricious nature. Wealth on the Niger, therefore, was not just about numbers. It was about skill, patience, and respect for the river. And if you missed any of these, the river would make you pay the price. Now, let me tell you about what it took to succeed on the Niger. First, you needed skill. Navigating the river demanded expertise, knowing where the sandbars lay, how to read the clouds, the winds, and the water, and mastering the art of the pole were crucial skills. Then came patience, waiting for the right season to fish, for the winds to shift, for transport, or for the perfect moment to sell one's wares was key. The quickest man might not always win on the river. Finally, there was the need for reverence. Acknowledging the river's power, respecting its rhythms, and following its customs were vital. This meant rituals, offerings, and a deep understanding of the river's language, its moods, and its demands. Those who lived on the Niger knew that wealth was not a straight path. It was a winding journey on a restless river. But if you had skill, patience, and reverence, you could navigate its currents. You could thrive on the river's bounty. To understand how people built wealth on the Niger, let's consider the example of a skilled canoeman. Picture a young man named Moussa. He lives in a village on the banks of the Niger, where his father taught him the ways of the river. Moussa knows the river intimately, its currents, its depths, and its secrets. With a well-crafted canoe, he sets out each morning at dawn, navigating the winding river, guiding his vessel effortlessly. Moussa isn't just a boatman. He's a trader in his own right. He buys cola nuts, salt, and cloth in his village and heads upstream to sell them in the next market town. Along the way, he fishes, adding fresh fish to his cargo. His life is on the water, and his success depends on his skill, patience, and respect for the river. Through careful navigation, he avoids the treacherous sandbanks and swiftly moves his canoe with the current. He negotiates with fellow traders, sharing information about the markets and the river's conditions. He respects the river's moods, offering prayers and sacrifices when storms threaten. Moussa embodies the spirit of the canoeman, thriving on the water, living by its rhythms and earning his wealth with sweat and skill on the very skin of the river. But being successful on the Niger wasn't just about individual effort. It was also about understanding the wider currents of trade and economics that flowed through the region. In a way, the people of the Niger were like sailors navigating the vast ocean of commerce. You see, the Niger didn't just connect rivers. It wove together economies. Fishermen sold their wares to middlemen, who supplied bustling markets in cities like Timbuktu, the same cities where scholars and merchants haggled over spices, silks, and the latest news from distant lands. The canoemen, like Moussa, became vital links in this chain, shuttling goods that might end up seasoning meals in faraway kingdoms or adorning the finest clothes in royal courts. Even the women, often unseen in the grand tales of empires, were part of this economic sea. Their smoked fish might end up on the plates of travelers resting in an inn after a long journey, or be traded for beads and bangles that adorned women in distant villages. On the Niger, prosperity wasn't an island. It was a web of connections, a network of interdependence. The prosperity of one depended on the trade of another, and the health of the river determined the fortune of all. Just as an ocean liner relies on global trade routes, the people of the Niger relied on the river's connection to distant markets. Theirs was a world intricately linked, where the fate of a fisherman's catch in a remote village could be tied to the demand for spices in a great city. So imagine this. A canoe arrives in Timbuktu, laden with smoked fish from the distant river. The fish is sold in the market, and a portion is set aside for the local ruler, a great lord with a taste for delicacies from the river's bounty. As the lord enjoys his meal, news arrives from the capital, a royal court hundreds of miles away. The king there is preparing for a grand festival, a celebration of his recent victories and a chance to dazzle visiting dignitaries. He sends a messenger back to Timbuktu with orders. He wants the finest fish from the Niger, enough to serve all his courtiers and guests. This unexpected order creates a ripple effect. The lord in Timbuktu dispatches a canoe, ordering extra fish from the villages upriver. Moussa, the young canoeman, receives this order and sees a chance to make a name for himself. He rallies the fishermen in his community, promising them good prices for extra catches. In return, he offers to pay for special canoes to ensure the fish reaches Timbuktu fresh. In a few weeks, canoes start arriving in Timbuktu. The fish is sorted, packed, and prepared for the long journey downstream. When the canoes reach the capital, they are unloaded under the gaze of the king's officials, who check for quality and quantity. If all goes well, Moussa and the fishermen receive handsome payments, enough to buy more canoes, nets, and supplies for their next trips. Meanwhile, the king's feast is a spectacular affair. The juicy, smoked fish from the Niger adds a unique flavor to the celebration, impressing visiting dignitaries. In this way, the humble fish from the Niger becomes a thread in the fabric of the empire, connecting villages, cities, and the king's court, weaving prosperity into the lives of those who dared to venture onto the water. But this prosperity wasn't just about material wealth. It was also about social standing and personal growth. For instance, a successful canoeman like Moussa could rise to become a respected elder in his community. His tales of navigating the river's perils and his successful trades would become legendary, shaping the aspirations of younger men in the village. Moreover, trade on the Niger wasn't just about buying and selling. It was about cultural exchange. Traders brought news, ideas, and even entertainment from distant lands, making the river a conduit of information and human connection. This mixing of cultures enriched the lives of those on the river, exposing them to new ideas and experiences. Finally, the river fostered a sense of community. The dependence on safe passage and the shared challenges of navigation fostered cooperation and solidarity among those who lived on the water. Festivals and ceremonies celebrating successful voyages and safe returns strengthened bonds, making the river a source of unity. Living by the Niger was akin to living on a stage where fortunes were made and lost on the river's whims. It was a place where the boundary between poverty and prosperity could be crossed in a single journey, a cast net or a trading deal. Here, wealth wasn't just about amassing riches. It was about resilience, adaptability, and a profound connection to the rhythm of the river. Theirs was a world where the next sunrise didn't just bring another day, but carried the promise of a new fortune on the ever-shifting sands of the Niger. On the river's edge, 3 figures stood as keepers of its order: the fisherman, the priest, and the chief. Each represented a different way of holding power, yet none could exist without the other. The fisherman brought food, ensuring survival. The priest brought ritual, ensuring peace with the unseen. And the chief brought law, ensuring balance between people. Together, they formed a triangle of authority, all tethered to the river's moods. We think of rivers mainly as sources of food and trade, life-giving arteries that sustain human activity. But rivers are also sites of politics and religion. They shape how we farm, where we settle, whom we fight, and how we pray. They define our world. The fisherman's authority was practical. In times of hunger, his catch fed the village, giving him a quiet but undeniable influence. A fisherman who knew secret bends of the river, or who owned a large canoe and many nets, might command more respect than a landowner in seasons of drought. Yet his power was fragile. A failed season could turn admiration into pity. The priest's authority was spiritual. He spoke for the river's spirits, declaring when fishing must pause, which stretches of water were sacred, and what offerings must be made. Without his blessing, no fisherman dared cast a net, for to anger the spirits was to invite disaster. His role was not negotiable. Even chiefs listened when he warned of taboos. The chief's authority was political. He managed disputes over water access, divided the rights to fish certain stretches, and negotiated with neighboring villages over boundaries. His presence turned the river into not only a natural resource, but also a site of governance. The chief could tax the catch, demand tribute from successful fishers, or summon canoemen for communal work like ferrying warriors or goods. So these 3, from different spheres of influence, came together on the riverbank. For the water demanded respect, obedience, and organization, and it gave these men the means to rule. Now imagine a moment. The sun beats down on a clearing. 3 men stand before a fire, their shadows stretching long. This is not a war council, nor a tribal court. It's a funeral. A great warrior lies before them, his chest wound open, displaying the organ that once beat in his chest. The men are preparing the heart for sacrifice. Who are these men? The warrior's brother, a village elder, and the shaman. Their roles are different, yet they share a purpose: to send off the warrior's spirit correctly. If they fail, the spirit may not find peace, haunting the living with vengeance. The shaman is adorned in feathers and animal skins. His face is painted in patterns that signify his connection to the spirit world. He will read the warrior's entrails, foretelling his future and guiding the ceremony. The brother is dressed in mourning clothes, his face etched with grief. He will make offerings, pouring out his anguish and devotion onto the flames. The elder, stoic and severe, is attired in the robes of office, signifying the weight of tradition and consequence that rests on his shoulders. He will ensure the proper rituals are followed, so that nothing is left to chance. Each of these men holds a different kind of power. The shaman draws from the unseen, communicating with spirits and omens. The brother brings emotions, channeling the raw feelings of loss and love that bind families and communities. The leader contributes rules and precedents, making sure the situation is handled according to time-honored customs. These 3, from realms of belief, blood, and bureaucracy, unite in a common task. Death is a universal truth. No matter how much we fear it, it comes for us all. And in those moments, these 3 kinds of leaders guide us through the darkness. drawing strength from their unique perspectives and responsibilities. In the vast expanse of human experience, there are countless ways to lead, to persuade, and to compel. Sometimes it's through the barrel of a gun, sometimes through the weight of one's wisdom, sometimes through the promises of the divine. Let's consider 4 distinct forms of authority: physical force, religious devotion, traditional knowledge, and rational argument. These aren't mutually exclusive categories. They overlap and intertwine in complex ways, but each represents a different source of power. Physical force is the most obvious. It's the authority of the strong over the weak, of the powerful over the vulnerable. Think of a dictator maintaining control through an iron fist, a corporation enforcing compliance through legal means, or a gang compelling obedience through threats of violence. Religious devotion is the authority of belief. It's the power wielded by those who claim a special connection to the divine, like a prophet commanding followers in the name of God, a priest compelling confession and absolution, or a monk demanding discipleship through ascetic practices. Traditional knowledge is the authority of custom and convention. It's the power derived from deeply held beliefs and long-standing customs, such as a tribal elder dispensing wisdom based on generations of experience, a craftsperson enforcing professional standards, or an artist maintaining the integrity of a creative tradition. Rational argument is the authority of logic and evidence. It's the power of persuasion through reasoned discourse, like a philosopher debating the merits of a particular doctrine, a scientist advocating for policies based on data, or a lawyer arguing a case in court. These 4 forms of authority intersect and influence each other in various ways. Physical force can be used to protect religious sites or suppress heretical teachings. Religious devotion can justify acts of violence or inspire acts of resistance. Traditional knowledge can buttress rational arguments or be challenged by new evidence. Rational arguments can reinforce traditional practices or be used to subvert established norms. Power, then, isn't just about brute strength or unassailable beliefs. It's a multifaceted phenomenon that manifests in diverse ways. Understanding these various forms of authority helps us navigate the complexities of human interactions and appreciate the subtle dynamics that shape our world. To wrap up, let's return to the river's edge. There's a calm after the storm. The sky is clear. The water is still. It's a perfect day for fishing. Canoes glide across the surface. Nets are cast, lines are dropped. Fishermen and women work in harmony with the rhythm of the water. But something is missing. The priest is absent. He has fallen ill and cannot join the others. Without his guidance, there is a disquiet in the air. The fishermen cast their nets with less confidence. Their catches are smaller. The water seems to have turned against them. They return to the village troubled, their faces drawn. The chief summons them, his brow furrowed with concern. The river is the lifeblood of their community. Its bounty feeds their people. Its spirit must be appeased. He turns to the village elder, a woman whose wisdom has been forged in the fires of countless seasons. She steps forward, her gaze steady. She will lead a prayer, a ceremony of petition. The fishermen gather around her, their murmurs subsiding into reverence. Together, they will perform rituals of renewal, offering prayers, songs, and sacrifices to the river's spirit. It's a scene both ancient and timeless, a testament to the enduring human need for connection, for order, for meaning in the face of nature's indifference. The river flows on, indifferent to human concerns. But in this moment, it becomes a site of shared humanity, a space where people and nature intersect, where survival depends on understanding and appeasing the forces beyond their control. There's something about water, We know we need it to survive. Yet, when we look out over a lake or a river, we can't help but imagine what it would be like to possess it. The idea of owning all this seems almost comical, as if taking possession of a sunset or the wind. Yet, when it comes to water, the desire to own it is both powerful and primal. The Congo River is the second longest in Africa, stretching more than 700 miles from its source in the mountains of Central Africa to its mouth in the Atlantic Ocean. In 2021, a report estimated that around 80 million people live within the Congo River basin, depending on the water for survival and livelihoods. This includes an estimated 16 million people living within the basin's dense rainforest, home to some of the world's most elusive animals and plants. The river's many tributaries weave through the forest, each bend and curve and island holding stories that have been passed down for generations. Along the Congo, rivers are not just sources of food and transport, they are also sources of identity, culture, and power. In the Cuba Kingdom, located in the Kasai region of the Congo, kings have long claimed ownership of the land and the rivers that run through it. When the king dies, his son inherits not just the crown, but the power over the land and the water. The new king must prove himself worthy of this power by performing rituals to show that he has the strength to protect and manage the land and its resources, including the river. One of the key duties of the king and his advisors is to maintain harmony between the Cuba people and the natural world, which includes respecting the balance of the river and its ecosystem. Disruptions to this balance, such as a decrease in fish populations, are seen as a sign that the king has lost the favor of the spirits and must take action to restore harmony. This responsibility to care for the land and its inhabitants is passed down through generations of Cuba rulers, shaping their decisions and actions as they navigate the complexities of their kingdom. The Cuba Kingdom's philosophy of land ownership is rooted in the belief that humans are not the only inhabitants of the land. Everything that lives there, including trees, rivers, and animals, is considered to be interconnected and interdependent. This interconnectedness is reflected in the Cuba art and architecture, which often depicts the relationship between humans and the natural world. For example, the Cuba people's traditional woven textiles feature intricate patterns that represent the interdependence of all living things, while their carved wooden sculptures often depict humans with animals, symbolizing the harmony that should exist between the two. This philosophy shapes the Cuba people's approach to land use and resource management, leading to sustainable practices that preserve the balance of the ecosystem. The Cuba people's respect for the land and its inhabitants is evident in their treatment of rivers, which are seen as living entities that must be respected and cared for. This reverence for rivers is reflected in the Cuba people's mythology and folklore, which often personifies rivers as powerful and unpredictable forces of nature. For example, one Cuba folktale tells the story of a young man who ventures into the forest and accidentally insults a river spirit. The spirit becomes angry and causes the river to flood, destroying the young man's village. This story serves as a reminder of the importance of respecting the power of rivers and the consequences of doing otherwise. In addition to their cultural beliefs, the Cuba people also have practical reasons for protecting their rivers. Rivers are essential sources of food and water for the Cuba people, and their health and well-being depend on keeping them clean and sustainable. Cuba communities often have systems in place to manage fishing and farming activities near rivers to ensure that the fish populations are not depleted and the water is not polluted. Overall, the Cuba people's philosophy of land ownership reflects a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all living things and the importance of respecting and caring for the natural world. Their approach to land management and resource use is shaped by their cultural beliefs, practical needs, and the desire to live in harmony with the environment, ensuring the health and well-being of both people and the planet. In the realm of the Congo River, there exists a profound connection between the spiritual and the mundane, where the rhythms of nature intertwine with the pulse of human existence. The mighty Congo River, with its winding path through the heart of Africa, holds within its depths not just water, but a rich tapestry of cultural significance, ecological wisdom, and human resilience. Along its banks, the Cuba people have thrived for generations, forging a unique bond with the land and its resources. The Cuba Kingdom's philosophy of land ownership, deeply rooted in tradition and custom, recognizes the inherent value of the natural world and the interconnectedness of all living beings. The concept of land as a living entity, shared with spirits and ancestors, guides the Cuba people in their relationship with the environment, fostering a sense of responsibility and respect for the delicate balance of the ecosystem. The Cuba people's worldview is beautifully captured in their art and architecture, which serve as tangible expressions of their intangible beliefs. Intricate woven textiles depicting the interdependence of life and harmonious coexistence between humans and animals reflect the Cuba people's deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all living things. Meanwhile, the Cuba Kingdom's kings played a pivotal role in preserving and promoting this worldview, ensuring the Cuba people's cultural continuity and environmental stewardship across generations. From the smallest insect to the mightiest elephant, each element of the ecosystem is revered and protected, recognizing the intrinsic value of biodiversity. Such an approach to land ownership stands in stark contrast to the prevailing capitalist worldview that often pits humans against nature, promoting exploitation and disregards the rights of future generations. However, despite the Cuba people's best efforts, their way of life and the health of the Congo River ecosystem are under threat. External pressures such as deforestation, mining, and the climate crisis pose significant challenges to the delicate balance that the Cuba people have worked so hard to maintain. Yet, in the face of these challenges, the Cuba people remain resilient, drawing strength from their rich cultural heritage and adapting their practices to changing circumstances. Their story offers a powerful lesson in the importance of respecting and preserving indigenous knowledge and their land rights. By recognizing the wisdom embedded in the Cuba people's worldview, we can learn how to live in greater harmony with the natural world and ensure the well-being of both present and future generations. The river was not free to all who desired it, though its waters stretched wide and endless to the eye. Invisible lines divided its currents, boundaries set not only by chiefs but by ritual authority. These were borders made not of fences or stones, but of prayers, sacrifices, and the whispered laws of the spirits. Priests became guardians of these boundaries. They declared stretches of the river off limits during certain moons, or forbade fishing in sacred bends where water spirits were believed to dwell. To ignore such decrees was not merely disobedience, it was dangerous. A fisherman who trespassed into forbidden waters risked losing his catch, his canoe, or even his life. Tales spread of men who mocked the rules only to drown in sudden whirlpools. Their bodies never recovered. These restrictions were also a form of resource management. By casting certain areas as sacred, the community gave the river time to replenish its fish stocks. What appeared as spiritual law was also ecological wisdom, though framed in the language of spirits and ancestors. Priests then became both environmental stewards and enforcers of divine law. But ritual policing was not only about the spirits, it was also about people. Chiefs leaned on priests to enforce territorial rights, framing boundaries as spiritual rather than political. If one village accused another of stealing fish, the priest could intervene, claiming the spirits had witnessed the theft. This blurred the line between sacred law and social order. In this way, ritual authority became a subtle tool of control. By declaring a river bend forbidden, a priest could shift the flow of trade. By lifting a taboo, he could grant one village prosperity while another starved. His voice carried not only the weight of the ancestors, but the very rhythm of survival along the water. And so, the river, though open and fluid, was always patrolled, not by guards with spears, but by ritual rules, ancestral warnings, and the invisible policing of belief. The life of a fisherman on the Congo River was hard, back-breaking work, from before sunrise to long after the sun dipped below the horizon. Fishermen paddled their small wooden canoes into the river's dark heart, battling the current, wind, and occasional crocodile attack. Their days were a constant struggle just to haul enough fish from the water to feed their families. But, as the saying goes, one man's trash is another man's treasure. For while the fishermen toiled in the dangerous waters, the real wealth of the Congo was wrung from the river by those who didn't even get their hands wet. The chiefs and merchants, you are watching this channel. Join me today as we explore how riverine kingdoms function. How do they make money? What roles do merchants play? And what does luxury look like in a pre-industrial society? Welcome to the series, Africa, Kingdoms on the Water. We will be exploring the various ways that African societies have utilized the continent's abundant waterways to create some of the most powerful and prosperous kingdoms in history. Today, we will be focusing on the mighty Congo River and the Kingdom of Congo. If you enjoyed this video or learned something new, please consider liking and subscribing so you can see more videos about amazing African history. Now let's dive right into the video. Back then, fishermen on the Congo River worked in dangerous conditions. They had to contend with the mighty river's unforgiving currents and frequent storms. Fishing grounds were often far from shore, forcing them to brave the night in the middle of the river. There were crocodiles, hippos, and other aquatic creatures looking for an easy meal. These nocturnal predators made the river a treacherous place to be after dark. To make matters worse, the fishermen usually had to fast until they had a good catch, meaning that they didn't always have the energy to fight off the exhaustion and hunger as they cast their nets into the water again and again. The reward for their hard work was meager. Most of what they caught was used to feed their family. Any extra fish would be traded locally for other goods. In essence, the fishermen were just trying to survive. They were focused on putting food on the table, not making a profit. Meanwhile, the chiefs and merchants along the river saw the fish the fishermen caught as a commodity, a product that could be turned into a source of wealth and power. While the fishermen were content with just getting enough fish to survive, the chiefs and merchants were looking at the same fish and calculating how many cowrie shells or lengths of cloth they could buy with the sale of dried fish. You see, the Congo River was more than just a natural waterway. It was a highway to prosperity, and those who controlled this highway reaped the rewards. The Congo River carried not just water and fish, it was a lifeline of trade, and those who mastered its currents became masters of its riches. It may seem counterintuitive, but the very dangers that made the river hard to navigate also made it a lucrative trade route. Because the river was so challenging to traverse, those who succeeded in transporting goods and people along its length did so at a high cost. This naturally led to higher prices for the goods once they reached their destination. So, navigating the perilous waters of the Congo became a highly sought-after skill, and those who possessed it, whether chiefs or merchants, reaped the financial benefits. Now, don't get me wrong. The fishermen had been on the river long before any of these trade routes popped up. They were the original inhabitants of the area and had a deep understanding of the river and its currents. However, they were focused on using the river for their own survival, not for the creation of complex trade routes. The fishermen cast their nets and set their traps where they could, hoping for a decent catch. They weren't thinking about how valuable the fish they caught could be in a distant market. The merchants and chiefs, on the other hand, they saw the potential. They recognized that the fish caught by the fishermen could fetch a high price in markets far from the river. So they established networks of trading posts along the riverbanks, and when the fishermen came in with their catch, they would purchase a portion of it, dried it out, and sent it on its way to distant markets. As the demand for Congo River fish grew, so did the merchants' wealth. The merchants used their profits to expand their operations, purchasing larger quantities of fish and extending their reach further inland. They became intermediaries between the fishermen and the consumers, and in doing so, they accumulated vast fortunes. Now, the fishermen were still catching the fish, but they weren't getting the best prices for it. The merchants were buying the fish from them and selling it for a profit. This created a system where the merchants became wealthier, while the fishermen were still just trying to make ends meet. And here is where the chiefs came in. Along the Congo River, chiefs held significant power and influence, and they often used this power to benefit themselves. They demanded tribute from the fishermen, requiring them to give a portion of their catch to the chief as a sign of loyalty and respect. In return, the chiefs provided protection to the fishermen, defending them against rival groups and foreign invaders. But this protection came at a cost, and the fishermen were expected to pay in fish. When the merchants started showing up and buying the fish from the fishermen, the chiefs also started demanding a portion of the fish that the merchants purchased. This allowed the chiefs to maintain their power and influence while also benefiting from the growing trade in dried fish. It was a strategic move that ensured that the chiefs were always well fed and that they had access to the resources necessary to maintain their social standing. The system of tribute and protection was mutually beneficial for both the chiefs and the fishermen. The chiefs gained access to a steady supply of fish for their households, and the fishermen received protection from external threats. This partnership allowed the fishermen to focus on their craft without fear of losing their livelihood, and it gave the chiefs a loyal and reliable source of food for their communities. As the trade in dried fish grew, so did the wealth and power of the chiefs. They used their newfound resources to build impressive palaces and to dress in fine clothes and ornaments made from materials like raffia cloth, copper, and ivory. The fishermen, on the other hand, were still working in the same small wooden canoes, battling the elements and the crocodiles in their fight to put food on the table. The merchants were the link between the two worlds, the fishers and the chiefs. They were the ones who saw the potential in the Congo River and turned it into a source of wealth. They organized the caravans and canoes that transported the dried fish inland, where it was traded for valuable commodities such as raffia, cloth, copper, and ivory. The merchants were successful because they were able to navigate the complex social and political landscape of the Congo River basin. They understood the needs of the different communities along the river, and they were able to adapt their trade practices accordingly. They also had to be skilled negotiators, as they were constantly dealing with different groups with different languages, customs, and interests. In the end, it was the merchants who reaped the greatest rewards of the Congo River trade. They amassed vast fortunes, built large homes, and developed intricate social networks that spanned the entire region. Yet, despite all of this, the river's true value was not measured in wealth or power, but in the sheer volume of fish it provided. For the people of the Congo River Basin, fish was not just a source of protein, it was a way of life. The abundance of fish in the river meant that there was always food to be caught, even if the catch was hard to come by. In fact, the Congo River was so rich in fish that many of the residents considered it to be a blessing from the gods. So, while the merchants and chiefs enjoyed the fruits of the river's labor, the fishermen who actually caught the fish were still living in poverty. It was not until the fish started to run out that people realized just how important the fishermen were. As the fish population declined, the merchants and chiefs had to rely on other sources of income, and the fishermen were no longer seen as a nuisance, but rather as valuable members of the community. In the end, the Congo River was a source of wealth and power for many, but it was also a reminder that the true value of the river was in the balance of nature that sustained it. Thank you for watching this episode of Kingdoms on the Water. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos about amazing African history. The fire has burned low now, its embers glowing like small red eyes in the night. The story of the Congo fisherman lingers in the air, like the faint smell of smoke and river mist. We have journeyed together through his struggles, the dangerous waters, the storms, the lurking crocodiles, the endless toil that wore down his body but sharpened his courage. We have seen how fishing was never just labor but also ritual. The river as a living being, the water spirits to be appeased, the taboos to be respected. Let's pause here for a moment. The night is deep, and the stars stretch far above, as if they too are listening to the stories of the river. We walked further into the world of trade. Canoes drifting like veins of wealth, fish markets alive with barter and whispers, fortunes rising and falling with the river's moods. And at the river's banks, chiefs, priests, and merchants shaped their power from the fisherman's catch. Luxury and authority were born from his labor, even as he remained the quiet foundation of it all. The fisherman's life was harsh, yes, but it was also deeply woven into the rhythm of the Congo. His net was not only for fish, but for survival, for community, for the balance of spirits and men. And though he may have returned each night weary, his paddle worn and his hands rough, he was part of something vast, a cycle of life, faith and power that stretched across the Congo River itself. Let's rest here, just as he must have rested, laying aside his oar, listening to the night water move past the reeds, the air filled with the sound of frogs and the distant beat of drums. Now, close your eyes. The fire is low, the stars are bright. The fisherman rests, his work complete for today. He sleeps beneath the wide African sky, just as you are sleeping now. Beneath the wide African sky, the river flows on, carrying away the burdens of the day, carrying you gently toward rest. The fisherman will rise with the sun, his muscles aching, his spirit strong. He will launch his canoe once more, becoming one with the water, wind, and sky. And as you wake, refreshed and renewed, you carry with you the strength of the river, the wisdom of the ancients, the vibrant pulse of life that beats at the heart of the Congo. Your dreams are filled with the scent of river water and the murmur of ancient wisdom. The fisherman's spirit is with you, guiding your steps, teaching you resilience, reminding you of the deep connection between all living things. When you return to the world, you do so with a newfound appreciation for the rhythms of nature, the power of community and the strength that comes from honoring the delicate balance of life. The lessons of the Congo flow through you, shaping your actions, guiding your decisions, and opening your heart to the beauty of the world around you. You are now under baobab skies,